Hello and welcome to Your Brainchild. Previously, we've discussed decimal points and place values. We talked about the place values, where this is the ones, this is the tens, and this is the hundreds. And to the right of the decimal point, we have the tenths, the hundredths, and the thousandths. So what this means is that the integers, everything to the left of the decimal point, is represented by these ones. So in the ones place, we have one of these squares. In the tens place, we have 10 of these squares. And then in the hundreds, we have hundreds, 100 of these squares. And that's fairly simple. But now when we go into the decimal points, the place values right of the decimal point, it's like we're zooming into one of these squares, the one unit of the square. And so the tenths, we take one of this unit and divide it into 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which means we need 10 of these bars to make up one unit. Similarly, for the hundredths, we take one unit of this square and divide it into 100. So that means we need 100 of these squares to make up one unit of the ones. But decimals come in bases of 10. So that means that we need 10 of these bars to make one of these. And similarly, we see that there's 10 of these squares to make one of these bars. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 in this column make up one bar of the tenths. So let's say we had to represent 1.25, I would shade in one unit, 2 of the tenths, and 5 of the hundredths to show 1.25. But like I said, the benefit, but also the disadvantage of decimals is that it's limited to bases of tenths. Now what about percentage? It's like decimals, but it is of a whole. So we take one unit and we always divide it into 100 because percentage comes in bases of 100. And so if we have a whole and we divide it into 100, and let's say we wanted to represent 63%, we would shade in 63 of those bars to show 63% of a whole. And again, the advantage and also the disadvantage of percentages is that it's limited to a base of 100 of a whole. Now, what about fractions? How do fractions work? So here we have a whole, and what we do is we take that whole and divide it into whatever base that the denominator has. In this case, I'm trying to showcase 1 2/5. So I take one whole, divide it into 5 because the denominator is a 5, and shade in one whole and 2 of the 5 to showcase 1 2/5. And that's the benefit of a fraction. You can have whatever base you wish, as the denominator is what decides what the base is. So for example, I can have something as complicated as 25 over 54. So here I have one whole, and I've divided that into 54. So I have 6 vertically and 9 across to make 54, and I've shaded in 25 of those squares to get 25 out of 54. So to reiterate, there are some times that decimals are more useful than percentages and fractions, and vice versa. When is it useful to use decimals? Decimals are especially useful for precise calculations. There's no limit to how precise you want the numbers to be. They can keep going on and on and on in place values. Decimals are often used for money. They're very helpful in places where a base of 10 is used. For example, the metric system. Now, sometimes it's more useful to use percentages, especially when you're talking about something out of a whole. For example, grades or marking, when you're talking about sales or taxes, when you really want to talk about how much of a whole the amount is. Now, when is it useful to use fractions? When you're measuring ingredients, for example, when you're dividing items between groups like food, marbles, or any items really. And especially in the imperial system, which does not use the base of 10. So for example, 1 foot is 12 inches, or 1 pound is 16 ounces. Now, fractions are especially useful when you need to use any base other than 10 or 100. I hope that helps in comparing and contrasting the benefits of decimals, percentages, and fractions, and understanding how they work. Thank you and take care.